Hey, this is Brian. I have Brain Twang Guitar Instruction, and braintwang.bandcamp.com is where my personal songs are that I've written and recorded. I've seen some people do a concert ticket stub collection on videos on YouTube, so I thought I'd do some. I'm going to break it up into four sections. This is the first section. These are the concert tickets from before I moved to Seattle. So when I lived in Baltimore, this is the first half, I'd say, and then I'm going to divide the last half into three other parts, because some of them are in different framed sections that are also were in Baltimore. I think that's all I have to say about that. Okay, so let's step on the step stool here and get started. So the first one, see if I can get this focus going correctly. Yeah, there we go. It's Eric Clapton. Actually, the first show I went to was the Grateful Dead at Merriweather, the one where they ruined the lawn. The audience ruined the lawn because of this huge rainstorm. I was a kid, and my family took me because a friend of theirs wanted to go. That was pretty fun, though, I guess. Bob Seger, next. Merriweather. A lot of concerts at Merriweather Post Pavilion. John Fogerty, sadly, before he was playing Creedence material again, but did get to see him at Merriweather. Neil Young and Crazy Horse at the Baltimore Arena. Yeah, that was pretty fun. Gotta love them. 1988, I think that was the Ragged Glory tour. And then, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with Georgia Satellites and Del Fuegos on the Rock and Roll Caravan tour. That was phenomenal. My neighbors showed me the Pack Up the Plantation movie, Tom Petty movie, and then took me to this show, and I fell in love with Georgia Satellites and Dan Baird and more with Tom Petty. It was just great. Very first Leonard Skinner comeback tour or whatever, reunion tour. That was actually really great. John Prine and Arlo Guthrie at the Lyric Opera House. Look at the prices on these. It's amazing. John Cougar with friends from school. That was probably the Scarecrow tour or Lonesome Jubilee or something, but I was really a fan of that record. This is Chuck Berry at the Warner Theater, and he invited everybody up to dance on stage afterwards. We were in the balcony, so we didn't get to do that, but that was really still fun to watch everybody do that. And then, let's see, a lot of these are very faded, but this is George Thorogood. Saw him. I was a big fan of his first four records. Bob Dylan, second time I saw him, I was at Merriweather with The Alarm, of all people, whoever they are. The Ramones, I escaped Baltimore for a weekend and hid out with a friend in New York. And she had a couple of friends, and they were going to see the Ramones at the Ritz, and I went with them, and boy, it's fantastic to see an iconic band in an iconic club, in New York City. Santana at Merriweather again. I found a $10 bill on the ground as we walked into the show, and was with my brother and a friend of mine, and I just laid back on the lawn and let Carlos Santana's guitar take me to other worlds. It was really amazing. Sorry about a little shakiness here. It's kind of hard to do this. Keith Richards at DAR Constitution Hall for the first solo tour. That was just fantastic. Glad I got to see one of those at least. Little Feat with Colin James. Colin James was really good, surprisingly. I never heard of him, but he was a fantastic guitar player. John Hyatt and Marty Jones at Pier 6. And then this one is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers again. Yeah. And then Rolling Stones. I thought I'd never see them. I thought I'd never see them again. And 1989 with my brother at RFK Steel Wheels Tour. Dave Edmunds review. It's a little disappointing because it was a review, so it was a collection of all these other people. But I was expecting a Dave Edmunds show, but it was still okay, I guess. Earth Day concert, 1990. You can look up online who was there, but I remember it was Indigo Girls, maybe Michelle Shocked, Billy Bragg, and Natalie Merchant, or 10,000 Maniacs, somebody like that. Went with some friends. Little Feat and John Hyatt I had to write in there because that was probably the reason I went, but it was still, Little Feat was great. Neil Young, Peter, Paul, and Mary. Yeah, Neil Young is coming up. There he is with Social Distortion and Sonic Youth. I love Social Distortion. Sonic Youth I had to leave for their set, but Neil Young's set was great, and so was Social Distortion's. John Hyatt again. And then John Hyatt with Richard Thompson and Sean Colvin, all acoustic. Really, really great. They all three played an acoustic set. John Hyatt's I actually have on a bootleg CD, so that's pretty cool. And then who's this? More Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers at the Capitol Center. Saw them a lot of times. Steve Miller, Bruce Springsteen without the E Street Band, Bob Dylan at Wolf Trap. What year was this? Are we in now? 1993 we're in? Okay, Dwight Yoakam at the Patriot Center. Now we're in 1994. Indigo Girls at Wolf Trap. Pink Floyd. Some friends offered me the ticket for $25, which is probably what it costs. I can't tell. No, maybe it'll cost a little less if I drove everybody down to RFK Stadium. But it was still a lot of fun. The show was spectacular. I don't know what album that was that year, but I'm guessing it was Division Bell or the one before it. Just phenomenal, amazing show. Jackson Browne with John Hyatt at Merriweather. Of course, that was great. And then, is this the Rolling Stones again? The first tour on the Voodoo Lounge. Sorry, the first show on the Voodoo Lounge tour, 94. And man, I went with a bunch of friends from work, and we danced our butts off in the way up high in the back of the stadium. The tier was shaking. The show was phenomenal. I think I have a copy of that one too. Might have a copy of this one also. This is the second show of the Voodoo Lounge tour. I went with a couple of friends, and we actually bought some backstage passes from some dude well into the show, but they got us up to the very front for the last song, and then into the bowels of RFK where we ran around, and I even we got to the Voodoo Lounge, but of course they were long gone. But I took something out of a Rolling Stones crate. It was a list. I think it was a packet of all identifying all the backstage passes, and we found ours on there too. That was kind of cool. And then this is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers again. It's hard to see where that one was. Capitol Center, maybe. Not sure. This was Tom Petty again at the Philadelphia Spectrum. That was pretty. I remember the crowd at that show. It was so loud, and it was just so good. He's just so amazing. Such a great performer. Nancy Griffith and Sarah Hickman at the Meyerhoff. Waylon Jennings at a little theater in Frederick. I guess it was a big theater. I don't know, but. After the show, I went up to him. He was coming out of the theater with Jesse Coulter and his little entourage, and I told him what a great show it was, and I asked for an autograph, and he goes, "I ain't got a pen." And so I took my ticket stub and a pen, and I shoved it in his hand, and he signed it and handed it back. And just as he was ducking his head down at the back of the car, after Jesse had gotten in, somebody yells, "Hey, Willie!" And his head pops up out of the car, and he goes, "I ain't Willie. That's your first problem." And then he got in the back of the car and he left. John Prine at Wolf Trap. Oh yeah, and that Waylon Jennings show was phenomenal. It really was. So was the John Prine show. I've seen John Prine a lot of times. Always really good. Who's this? This is Wilco at the 930 Club. Really was a big Uncle Tupelo fan. Briefly got into Wilco and Sunvolt for their first couple of records, but that was about it. Willie Nelson at Pier 6, where he met people at his bus afterwards, and I waited in line and met him, and he was a real sweetheart. Sunvolt at the 930 Club. Bob Dylan at the King Street Palace. This was a phenomenal show. It was a little basketball arena, and you could dance right up to the stage, which I did, and I have the show somewhere on CD, and it was a really, really, really good one. One of the best Dylan shows I've been to. This was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These were when I was in AmeriCorps. My first AmeriCorps program. Cherry Poppin' Daddies at Fletcher's. That seems like it's out of place. Maybe not. Maybe I was in Baltimore for a weekend when I went to see that. Yeah, it must have been. I don't know. Then Arkansas at the Rep, we saw a show about Woody Guthrie's life. It was a play and a musical, which I'm not usually into, but this was really cool because it was about Woody Guthrie. And everybody acted, sang, danced. I bought a CD from it. I forget the name of it, but it was really good. Lost Highway, same thing, but with Hank Williams at the Ryman Theater in Nashville. And that was also really great. Musical again. Johnny Cash at Pier 6. Only time I ever saw him, but it was wonderful. Bob Dylan with Annie DeFranco at Wolf Trap. Annie DeFranco had the audacity to play a Bob Dylan song, and I thought that was really cool. And I wasn't really into her, and she was okay, but I thought that was cool of her to play a Dylan song. while opening for him. The Stones at Jack Kent Cooke. We were literally 1 or 2 rows from the very tip top at the back of the stadium, and the wind was blowing the sound around. And like the first one in Voodoo Lounge, it was a whole bunch of us from work. But sadly, the wind was blowing the sound around. In the paper the next day, it said it was a great show. And I might have a copy of that show too. I don't know. Robert Earl Keen at the Ram's Head. That was pretty fun. Ram's Head's a nice venue. Bob Dylan with Van Morrison. We went all the way up to Madison Square Garden for that, and I found out later that the Stones were playing in the bigger Madison Square Garden. Dylan was playing below, and they were playing upstairs, which I had no idea. Same weekend, 3 shows each, and if I had known that, I'd have arranged to go to a Stones show too. I have some bootlegs from it, but dang it, I did not get to go. But the Dylan show was phenomenal, by the way, and Van Morrison was good. He wasn't great, but he was good. He played first at that show. They switched on and off. Ramblin' Jack Elliott at the Birchmere. I walked up to him afterwards. He was signing stuff at the table and said, "I just want to shake the hand of the man who slept on Woody Guthrie's couch." And he was real sweet, really nice guy. Who do we got here? This is Gillian Welch at the Ram's Head. The very first time I ever saw her. That was good, as I recall. Don't remember a lot about it. Buena Vista Social Club, their first tour at Carnegie Hall. I don't know if they had another tour. You might have had 1 or 2 later, many years later. What's this? Willie Nelson and Steve Earle at Wolf Trap. That was good. Newport Folk Festival, when it started traveling around, I wrote in who played Lucinda, Oludara, Violent Femmes, Wilco, Joan Baez, Nancy Griffith, Rodney Crowell was there. That's kind of cool. Landmine Free World Benefit with Steve Earle, I think, was there. Lucinda Williams, Emmylou Harris, and who else does it say there? You're gonna have to read it because I can't. This one, Lucinda Williams. That was at the Birchmere. First time I saw her, and that was amazing. She had Kenny Vaughan on guitar at that show. She was already playing Car Wheels songs, I believe, before it came out, and they were just on fire. The band was the whole show. Twangberg, I saw the $2 Pistols there, and a bunch of other bands that you can look up online at the Rosebud in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1998. I forget who else was there, but I was there for 2 days, and it was just a blast. It was a real fun adventure. God, who else was at that show? I don't remember, sadly. But the $2 Pistols, I got to meet John Howie. That was really cool. The Junior Brown, the guitar wizard at the Birchmere. Dr. Ralph Stanley, got to meet him at the Birchmere when he played with the Clinch Mountain Boys. That was pretty special. Who's this band? Oh, the Rolling Stones. No kidding. At the MCI Center. Smallest venue I'd ever seen him at that point. Maybe, 20,000 there, something like that. 15,000, I don't know. Had a good, pretty decent seat too, and found a copy of the show later too on CD. Big Sandy and the Fly Ride Boys at the Birchmere. I don't think they played the big part of the Birchmere, just the outside and the front. Lucinda Williams at Shriver Hall. That was really fantastic. And the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival, I went and saw John Lee Hooker there with a buddy and his little daughter, and here's a picture of his little daughter, actually, at the time. And me. The Landmine, we're here, right? Yeah, the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival. John Lee Hooker played, but the wind blew the sounds, like the Stones show, all over the place, and that was a bummer. The Guinness Flaw boss, the bar I worked at, supplied me and another coworker with free tickets, and we went up to some island, I can't see it there anymore, in New York, and John Prine was playing. Somewhere I have the list of all the others too. That was pretty cool. What's this? Steve Earle at the Recker Theater. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Funny thing is, I don't remember this show at all, but I believe I went, because there it is. Southern Culture and the Skids with Deke Dickerson. This is really cool. Bill Kirchen was behind me in the show, and he knew me from setting up shows at the Roots Cafe, and he asked me to jump on stage, and he told me, jump on stage and I'll take a picture of you with the band, which people, if you know Southern Culture and the Skids, that's a thing. And I did it, and I'm going to get the picture. So here is the picture that Bill Kirchen took of me jumping up on stage at Fletcher's with Southern Culture and the Skids, which is only cool because Bill Kirchen took the picture and told me to do it and kind of shoved me up on stage. So that's a little claim to fame there. It's kind of cool. Next, where are we at? Fletcher's again. It looks like I need my glasses for some of these. I can't even see them. Sorry, getting a little shaky here. Where are we? Here we are. Okay, and it's Freakwater and Sally Timms. That was really cool to get a chance to see Freakwater at all, and Sally Timms. Didn't know I'd see Freakwater one more time in my life, but that was really fun. A little bar, you know. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with Los Straight Jackets. That was really cool. Wilco at the Wrecker Theater. With the old 97s, that's probably why I went, because by then I was kind of not into Wilco anymore, but I liked the old 97s at that time. Mike Ness and I at the Wrecker Theater, which was a pretty small club. And the last line here is old number 8 in Chicago at the Double Door. I went to vacation in Chicago in February. I think this was when I did that, and oh no, this was a different time actually, but I did do that once. And so when I did that, I met people at Bloodshot Records where I volunteered, and they let me work on a Nico Case record, doing some research on copyrights, and gave me a copy of it. It was Furnace Room Lullaby was the Nico Case record. And the next time I went, a year or two later, I knew some people then from that experience, and they took me to see old number 8, which I don't remember at all. I don't remember who they were. Old 97s at Fletcher's got a recording of that show. I might have made that recording. I don't know. But that was a pretty fun show. No, I couldn't have made that recording. Somehow I found it. But that was a great show. I do remember that. It was up close, a little bar. And next one is Reverend Horton Heat with Hank Williams III at the Wrecker. I went for Hank Williams III, of course. And then 60 Watt Shaman. I didn't go for them, but I went for Split Lip Rayfield, also at Fletcher's. Oh, sorry, we skipped one. Jonathan Richman, solo with just his guitar at Fletcher's. That was pretty fun, I gotta say. Then Split Lip Rayfield opening for 60 Watt Shaman. John Prine at Wolf Trap. AC/DC in Madrid when I lived there for a few months, study abroad program. And every time Angus Young hit his guitar, or strummed a chord, my pant legs blew back against my shins. It was that loud, and the crowd was so packed in this arena that when people were jumping the whole time, and I was just squished between them, and so I was being pulled off the ground also. It was pretty cool, though, I gotta say. Waylon Jennings again. By this time, he was being helped on stage and sitting the whole time, but it was just wonderful to see him one more time. Just a huge Waylon fan. And Mojo Nixon at Fletcher's. Boy, Fletcher's got some crazy big acts for such a small club. Anyway, that is it for the first section of my concert ticket stubs. First video, part 1. I'm going to try and edit these together if I can. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave comments or likes. Yeah, I'd love to hear your comments about any of these artists or any shows or any comments. If you've been to any of these shows, that'd be really cool. So, yeah, thanks for watching.